Alexei, thank you so much for joining me today for this quick Q&A. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And thank you very much for the invitation to talk to you today.
My pleasure. Obviously we've been in touch, and earlier this year you've actually written a blog for us about the NISQ computing era. What does that mean?
Well, NISQ stands for Noisy Intermediate Scale Quantum, meaning quantum hardware, quantum chips available to us right now, which are small, noisy. We probably have somewhere between 50 to 70 qubits, more or less, and they're not perfect. It means that on one hand side, we have quantum systems which are still very small and fragile to do some serious research and implement algorithms which promise to deliver quantum advantage. But on the other side, these quantum systems are big enough to allow us all sorts of experiments and proof of concept solutions, methods, algorithms, and that's what makes this particular period very exciting. Also, we should understand that there are special algorithms, and actually the fact that we are working with imperfect systems, NISQ systems, this prompts us to look at algorithms that can actually be run efficiently on this type of hardware. So I think to some extent, the research, the models, the algorithms we develop right now are driven by the fact that we have these small, fragile, imperfect systems.
But as you said, it's a very exciting era for us to be in. And thanks to this new generation of quantum computers, there have been some promising results achieved by quantum neural networks. Is that right?
That's right. Quantum neural networks, sometimes we also call them parameterized quantum circuits, are quantum algorithms that can actually be run on NISQ era quantum computers. So we can have very interesting high performance systems that can operate on small number of qubits, say 20 to 30. And we can have results which can be compared in comparison to classical systems, equivalent classical systems, do show some signs of quantum advantage. Maybe not completely, sort of not in the way that we would switch immediately from classical neural networks to quantum neural networks, but at least they point in a particular direction. And there is a lot of research going on right now trying to actually establish quantum advantage on real-world practical use cases. That's what also we are doing, where we're looking at finance-related use cases.
Anything in particular that you might be able to share with us today?
I would say that, broadly speaking, parameterized quantum circuits or quantum neural networks can fall into two broad categories. First, we have generative models. We can use parameterized quantum circuits to efficiently generate samples from very complex distributions, something that is very difficult to do classically. And the second bucket is a collection of various discriminative models, classifiers, predictors, and so on, where again, classical neural networks would require exponentially large amount of resources to perform at the same level as quantum systems. In other words, we say that quantum systems have much larger expressive power in comparison with equivalent classical systems. So I think that's where we already have some very interesting experimental results.
Fantastic. So what next after NISQ computing? What are we looking ahead to?
After NISQ computing, we'll have what we call fault-tolerant quantum computing. And once it happens, once we have big systems, robust systems, which match better fidelity, then we can actually execute well-known algorithms that were discovered a long time ago, but we didn't have chance to implement them yet, including factoring of integer numbers, famous Shor algorithm, that would open all sorts of possibilities for us. So I would say, I don't know how many years from now, but once the fault-tolerant quantum computing arrives, I think everything will change.
But before that, obviously, much like AI research, quantum computing research is very expensive. But do you see any signs of any of an event like an AI winter in the quantum computing world?
There is, of course, a danger that quantum winter may arrive at some point. Similar to AI, we might experience actually several periods when interest towards quantum computing will go up and down and up again and down again. Yes, it's possible. I think that the main factor here is not as much the fact that quantum hardware is expensive, although it is very expensive, but rather very elevated expectations, very very high expectations and demand for quantum computing. I think it's dangerous to live through the period when new technology is overhyped, but eventually I think technology will catch up our expectations. Whether we are going to witness a quantum winter, I don't know. If we continue to deliver results at the same pace, if we continue to improve technology at the same pace, then I think new powerful results will continue coming every year, and the interest will be maintained. But if for some reason there will be a period of time when we scientists, practitioners, machine learning experts, computer scientists will, if we fail to generate sort of a string of interesting, exciting results, then yes, there might be dangers that that interest in quantum computing would decline. But even if it happens, similar to the story with machine learning and AI, we know that after ML winter always comes ML spring. So I think the same happens with quantum computing.
Alexei, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. See you at the event.
Thank you very much. See you soon.